What are you waiting for there, buddy?
Just waiting for it to go live, which we now are. So everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I am Michael Mudge, joined by Dustin DeFranco, here to talk some Star Wars. Probably a shorter recording today. Only Dustin and I are able to do it. And just been busy lately and things bogging us down a little bit, and some travel, which Dustin just got back from and went to Florida. Got some good weather down there.
Excellent weather. I'm regretting my choices coming back.
I know I'm going to be going to Mexico soon, and I think I might just stay there, at least until it gets warm back home.
Well, you got to fake your own death first.
And then I guess since possession is 90% of the law, 9/10 of the law, same thing. Lincoln would be over with you. So does that mean you would then be the adoptive parents of Lincoln, my dog?
Yes, and you'll never get him back.
No. Poor Lincoln.
Ours like, oh, I have a brother that's not going to hump me. That sentence sounds weird in and of itself, but.
So whenever Dustin's family leaves, we usually watch after Ari, and likewise he watches after Lincoln. So Ari was just over here, and it never fails. Our other dog Rex is very much in love with Ari, and he's at that perfect height for him to. We won't get into it.
Use your imagination, folks.
Yeah, use your imagination. But while you were down in Florida, you were able to visit the Galactic, not the Star Cruiser, but I'll just let you explain it.
Yeah, so I haven't been down. Honestly, I don't even know if I've ever been down to Disney. Like, I don't remember, so probably not, which is fine. No slight on my parents, because I it's not something I think us kids really cared about. We had Six Flags in St. Louis. That was good enough for us. And Disney was cool, but it wasn't as cool as it is now. But it's such a huge complex. So, it's a city within the city. And you go there. We went to an area called Disney Springs, which is more like the shopping, eating kind of area.
Yeah.
Everything in Disney is way too fucking expensive. Like, no, it doesn't matter where you go. It's ridiculous. So we checked that out, but they have a couple, Star Wars themed retail shops that I popped in, of course.
Yeah.
And so did that, and then went to the Rainforest Cafe, which what a freaking racket that is. I mean,
your favorite?
Well, I'm sure as a kid I loved it, right? I thought it was really cool. And, Bennett, our son, who's 20 months, is too young to really appreciate it. In fact, he's terrified by the thunderstorms, right? That did not go well. But the food is way overpriced. The wait was way too long, and it was way too expensive for what you get.
Yeah, and like you said, like things you probably wouldn't notice much as a kid, so you probably enjoy it more. But as a parent, you're like, this is a waste. But they still do a lot of cool things. I loved the storm portion of it. Like, that was my favorite. But
well, it's funny too, because I think, was I texting you? I was like, he's not really enjoying the storm portion.
Yeah.
And the very next thing, like, we were texting each other simultaneously.
I think it was like the same time. Yeah. I think at the same time that I sent that I always love the storm portion, you sent Bennett was not enjoying it too much. But going back to the Star Wars stuff, while you were down there, he got me a few of these thermal detonators. It's like Pokemon, got to collect them all. So got one of each, baby. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to open them at all. I think I'm just going to leave the liquid in there. And
I would say that's a good bet,
because then it kind of weighs it down a little more. And those things are pretty solid, though. I love the Arubesh and whatnot.
I was pretty nervous that, we checked the bag, because obviously you couldn't carry that on. But I was like, I thought I was going to get like a nasty gram. Like, hey, we went through your luggage, idiot. Like, what are you doing bringing this stuff? Nothing. Yeah, they must be so used to those things going on.
Yeah. Well, I remember, this might have been an episode we recorded like a year ago when we were first talking about like
Well, didn't
Galaxies.
Zach get them or
No,
or
Greg
somebody?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like not too long before he went down there, the airlines just changed the rule to allow them to check those within the luggage because a lot of people were getting stopped because of their appearance. You know, these look kind of like bombs or, well, they're supposed to mimic explosive devices. So people weren't being allowed to bring them on the flights, but people kept complaining because it's like you spend this money on these bottles and they're kind of a souvenir and collectibles, especially to Star Wars fans. Like, how can you not let us bring them back home, whether they were empty or full? So it says something when you're able to get TSA to change their regulations about like a drink bottle from Star Wars. So
you don't mess with Disney, huh?
Well, speaking of Disney, and I guess I can just dive into this, like one of the news bits I had. So I was looking at a few articles, and apparently Disney, and not just for Star Wars, but Disney in general might be putting the brakes on the output of its biggest franchise and brands following Bob Iger coming in. So he mentioned that the company needs to be better at curating their product, especially the stuff that's, as he said, extraordinarily expensive. So this is impacting Marvel. This is impacting Star Wars and all the other things. And it tells me that they're feeling it financially because one of the lines that this guy said, so this was William, I'm spacing on his last name, but William from AV Club even sarcastically writes, "How much money did I spend on a streaming TV show sequel to Mighty Ducks in 2021?" And they're just kind of throwing out product left and right. And it's not even like, I won't say it's not quality, but it's not amazing. It's just okay.
Mediocre.
Yeah, it's very mediocre. And Marvel and Star Wars are kind of, or Lucasfilm are facing two different like situations. So Marvel was spitting out movies left and right. Like it was mostly
And
movies,
shows.
and there were some shows to go along with it. Star Wars, on the flip side, I mean, they haven't had a movie since 2019's Rise of Skywalker, but they've been kind of pumping out TV shows, whether it's live action or an animation. So I know there's been talk of like diluting the product, and that's part of it, but there's also this cost portion to it that Disney is starting to feel. And I mean, I'm sure it's a combination of all the product they're spitting out and, the state of the economy right now, cost of living going up, people maybe not going to movies as much. So there's a lot that plays into it, but not that Disney would ever go broke, because I don't think they necessarily ever will unless something catastrophic happens. But it's telling me that they're starting to feel it financially if they're like, okay, we kind of have to reel it in. It's like a situation where there's this, brand new line of toys or something, and people are, or collectibles, and people are just throwing out money left and right just to get it. And then you're like, ooh, maybe I'm throwing too much money out at one time. So I feel like that's what Disney is experiencing right now. And William made the comment that Star Wars needs to find a way to get back to the big screen at the same time of like slowing down the product in TV shows and stuff like that. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, when it comes to this particular thing, I'm a big proponent of quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And I mean, Marvel has really inundated themselves. There's so many fans that I know who have gotten so overwhelmed with all the content that they stop watching it altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what they think: I'm so far behind. I haven't even seen, let's say, the Eternals, right? I haven't even seen the Eternals, so I don't want to watch that and then She-Hulk and then Moon Knight and all that stuff to get caught up to where I need to be. And by the way, speaking of Marvel, I mean, reviews aren't everything, but the reviews for Ant-Man are not particularly good. So,
well, and I
like,
feel
not fresh for sure. Actually, kind of rotten. It'd be the worst reviewed movie since the Eternals, actually. So, again, reviews aren't everything. But that's a little disappointing for me because obviously you have a really important character, and Kang being developed. Right, he's the big bad for this phase. So that would be kind of disappointing to hear. But
yeah, and I think that's been very reflective, especially in the Marvel product, in terms of how it's being received from viewers and fans like that. Because, I mean, maybe there's a show here or there that people are like, I really didn't like that. But I mean, going back to when like phase 1 through 3 of Marvel, you would very rarely come across a movie where you were like, that wasn't good at all. I mean, I can think of like Thor Dark World, and that was probably the only one that I probably didn't like all too much, but it was still okay. But every piece that they were bringing out, or all the content, was great. And then you hit phase 4. In phase 4, you start with the Spider-Man movie, which was pretty good. And then you had the Black Widow movie, which I really liked the Black Widow movie. But then everything since has just kind of been, like you said before, just mediocre. The Loki show was good, and what was Moon Knight? Moon Knight was pretty good. But everything else has just been, I didn't feel the need to watch it the day it came out. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's like I'm 3 episodes behind Bad Batch, and I'm not really jonesing to get caught up.
But Andor, which was the most recent live action, though, was very captivating.
Yes, we were watching that the minute we could. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to quality over quantity, I'd rather them take 5 years to make a really, 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 really good movie versus pumping out mediocre crap once a year or twice a year. But right, just like everything, there's a balance.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, you could take your time developing a really good movie, a live action film, and then release some good content in between that, like The Mandalorian, like Andor, right? Like
so,
Acolyte.
So do you think this is a product of the streaming service being released? Because when you have something like a streaming, like if you have Netflix is spitting out new shows left and right, but they're not pigeonholed to like Disney content. You have a bunch of different things that Netflix pulls in. But Disney, I mean, you only can do so much at a time. So are they being forced, especially with their larger franchise, whether it be Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, are they forced to churn out product faster because they have their own streaming service?
I don't think so. I obviously the content was pretty sparse when Disney Plus came out. It was kind of all rehashed stuff. I think now they have a pretty good catalog to kind of live off for a little bit. But you see this happens when a show releases, subscriptions spike, go away, subscriptions dip. That's the nature of that beast. I think the real comments, the reason for Iger's comments is everyone's kind of worried about, what's going to happen with the economy, whether that, it's going to be a little bit of a downturn. So
valid point.
He might not say that outright, but
right.
My wife's company is worried about it. Our company's worried about it. Our vendors. So, they were also worried about 2022, and then my wife's company had a banner year. So you can't predict that stuff. You can try, and they do, and they fail often, and they succeed. It's like a weather person.
Yeah, I was just going to relate it to the weather.
So I want to just go back real quickly while I'm thinking about it to my time in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Florida drivers are like pod racers. They will take you out. Like, they are the most aggressive, dangerous drivers. I've been to enough states. I've not been to all of them, but I've been to enough. Like, some drivers are dumb, right? And they're a nuisance. Florida drivers are dangerous.
I would say that about Illinois drivers though too, but maybe from
Illinois drivers are aggressive, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Mostly in the Chicago area.
Yes. Yeah, because living in the Milwaukee greater area for a while, you would see a car just like speed by, or like switching lanes very quickly, and you would think in the back of your head, I bet it's an Illinois driver. Then you would check the license plate, and sure enough, Illinois driver. But maybe you're putting it more accurately. Maybe they're just more aggressive and not dangerous.
So, and you have an inherent bias being from Wisconsin, because isn't there a term for Illinois drivers?
Yeah, they're fibs.
Yeah, fucking Illinois bastards.
Yeah. But I mean, I only lived in Wisconsin 3 years, and I mean, I noticed that coming from Texas and moving there, you could definitely see the aggressive. But I get it. Like, if you drive around Chicago a lot, you kind of have to be, because if you're not, you're just going to get stuck in traffic or stuck in a jam. And, you know, I've been in situations where all of a sudden you're driving in through Chicago and one of the lanes is, you know, closed down, but you have no warning. So then the line of traffic just gets backed up while the other lanes are going. So you just kind of have to like speed out as fast as you can. And so I get it.
So, a couple things. No one uses a turn signal in Florida. Like, if
No,
you use it.
I believe that.
If you use your turn signal, everyone knows you're not from Florida. Another thing is, they could give two shits about an ambulance or a fire truck. We were on the road and there was an ambulance coming up behind us. We got off the road, you know, like as one does.
Yep.
And we were getting passed by other cars. They're like, well, this is my opportunity.
So was this around the Orlando area?
Well, we were in that particular area. It was called Cocoa Beach, which is about an hour from Orlando on the Atlantic Ocean, which is kind of cool because it was where all the cruise ships launch. So
yeah.
We saw 5 cruise ships just docked, you know, in their little spots. It was really neat. And I didn't want to sidetrack too much. I was thinking about it. You know.
Yeah, that's surprising though, because I would have thought Florida, you know, state of people retiring, that I guess like Arizona and Florida are very popular retirement states.
Hey man,
so
their time is short. They got places to be.
But I got a buddy in Arizona that complains that the drivers are super slow there because everyone's retired and they're in no rush. So, but I think Florida is also a little different. And just to a little plug, going back to us being live, you know, feel free to hit us up in the chat.
If you disagree with me, feel free to, you know, let me know what you think the worst drivers are, because I'm up for that debate. You know, everyone says they live in the state with the worst drivers, and
that's true.
Let's be honest, there are a lot.
Yeah,
really bad drivers.
I feel like drivers in general have taken a dip in terms of, you know, how good they are in the last couple of years. I feel like drivers have just gotten worse the past like 5-10 years, or maybe it's because as you get older, you kind of, you know, notice these things a little more versus when you're younger. You're like, oh, I'm going to speed through everywhere, get to the places I need as fast as I can. I'm invincible. So I don't know, just something I've noticed. But yeah, bring us your questions, opinions, ideas, all of it. You know, we'll bring you in as part of the show and let you drive the conversation just as much as we are. Because like I said, we don't have much to talk about today, but we're getting into what we can. So,
well, we'll talk about Convergence.
We will. I just want
full spoiler alerts, because I was told when we talked about the books by a buddy of mine.
Oh,
we didn't say spoilers.
In the High Republic one?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, and this book is newer. This book is newer. So spoiler alert to Star Wars Convergence, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I did also just want to say congrats to creator, director, writer, producer, actor, and voiceover artist Jon Favreau, as he was honored with a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame. So kudos to him. Well deserved. Looking forward to all the great things that he's going to bring Star Wars, especially Mandalorian season 3, which is less than a month away.
What? It's
month and a half.
First. It's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks away. Man, that's going to be here sooner than we know it. And we'll definitely be watching those episodes as they release, and we'll be bringing it to our listeners to review, talk about all that junk. So yeah, going back to Star Wars Convergence. So I just finished that book. I just want you to know, Dustin, that's like 3 books that I finished in maybe a month and a half, 2 months. So I'm getting a little better. And the next one I'm reading. So I realized though, I read Convergence, but Path of Deceit actually is supposed to be read before it. So
which is a YA, isn't it?
Which is a YA book.
But you said
I on our Twitter handle, after I finished it, I sent out the question, which listeners, answer this if you want to as well. But I feel like these, at least the more recent High Republic adult books, read more like a YA book than they do adult books.
Yeah, it's because the protagonist makes a dumb decision. You're like, this must be a teenager.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's they don't go into too much depth into like the characters or the situations or anything. I shouldn't say anything. They do get pretty deep in some things, but it's not what I would think of as like an adult novel. I feel like they're still targeting an audience of teens, late teens, early 20s. And I don't know, like, I feel like they're going to want, I mean, why make a YA book? Like, why make Path of Deceit and say it's a YA book when it feels or reads no different than your adult books? What's the point of having that separation? If you're going to have adult books, make them like a lot deeper and a lot more dark. And it goes back to phase 1, where Into the Dark, which was the first YA book, was more of an adult book than the remaining adult books. So I don't know. So, I mean, I would recommend going and reading that one, Dustin. I know.
Path of Deceit?
No, it's Into the Dark.
Okay.
It's the first YA book from phase 1. That one was pretty good. And not to say the other books haven't been good, just not at the level that I'm hoping for in terms of these books. Was this book good? Meaning Convergence? I liked it. I enjoyed the read. I think I rated it like a 3-star on Goodreads, but it wasn't terrible. But it wasn't outstanding. But
yeah, so it just, the whole thing reminded me of like Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
Right? So you have, the
battle of two worlds that shouldn't be together.
Yeah, well, I forget the names of the families, the Montesquieu's or something, or that's like an old, actually, like, that's a different book, isn't it?
From Romeo and Juliet you're talking about?
Yeah. I hadn't read that book in so long.
Montague and listeners, remind us.
Yeah, this is where someone in the chat could be like, oh,
yeah.
These guys. So, with that said, it's just a reskin, really, of a story we've seen a million times. A forbidden love, right? Or, they kind of switched it up because the lady did it out of what she thought was necessity to bring the families together, which I think is actually kind of how Romeo and Juliet. Well, no, because
they were out of love. So it's the Capulets.
Yeah,
the Capulets and the Montagues. So,
oh, dude, you remember that movie with
Leonardo DiCaprio?
That was so bad. Yeah.
What was the female lead's name in that?
No clue. I just remember how bad that movie was. I watched it I think I watched it in like one of my like literary, like English lit classes.
We saw it in school too.
Yikes. So, that's how the book starts. Is this kind of forbidden love? I just, man, there's just not this real world threat that I feel, right? Okay, war between these two outer rim planets that people seem to not really care about. Okay, the stakes are low, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When you go from the first, Light of the Jedi, where there's a near cataclysmic event.
Yeah.
To going to, these two very different planets.
Yeah.
Civil War issues. Or something that seems really, really dumb. Like the dude's kid died and he just, blindly blames it on the other planet.
Yep.
With zero thought or investigation. So
well, and they weren't always at war with each other, right? I mean, I think they mentioned that they're kind of in and out of war. So this event you're speaking to, they were coming out in a time of peace, and then this happens, and then they blame it or the other planet, and all of a sudden they're at each other's throats again. And
so here's what I didn't get. And I did the audiobook, so full disclosure, whether people think that's reading or not.
I do. I think it's fine.
I enjoy audiobooks, and I can do that while I'm like, driving from one place to the other. Can't really read that way. It's very dangerous, kids.
Unless you're in Florida.
Yeah, well, in Florida, they're reading it, on their Kindle while driving. Oh, they mentioned like it was a 5-year war, right? I think that's what they said. And then people were acting like all they had known is war. Like what?
Yeah.
5 years is not. What is?
Well, when you're catering to young adults,
yeah,
and you've been around for 15 years, maybe 5 years is a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't find the characters particularly compelling. There's no one that stood out that. There was no Elzar Mann or Loden Greatstone or.
Yeah, it was what Gela was her name.
Yeah,
I want to say, who was the main Jedi.
She wasn't a master, right? She wasn't a Padawan. I think she was a Jedi Knight.
No, because it was Master Roy and Master. I'm trying to remember the other master's name, but no, she was just a Jedi Knight. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, and then again, the bad guys in this just are not compelling, right? It's like a religious group, I just didn't really. I read the book and I was like, okay, this is good. Star Wars content. I appreciate it. The audiobook was read very well. The sound effects are good.
Yeah.
But the story to me is just kind of meh.
And
which, like I said, mediocre content like that doesn't really inspire.
I will say, I think it is probably leading up to its building, only because if you remember from the last book of phase 1, it ends. So the Starlight Beacon, that planet it crashes down on is Eram, which is one of the conflicted planets of one of the 2 conflicting planets in this book. So, and if you remember in that book, Eram is in a very bad place. That it's like very dark and experiencing a lot of issues, and I want to say they have like cataclysmic issues on the planet. So I wonder if it's kind of building into something to give us what happened to that planet, why it's where it is in the phase 1 trilogy. But I think something else that's very adolescent of this book is it follows that same typical, tween thing where it's like you have a group of 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, going through like an adventure together. That's what I mean, it's not really an adventure together here, but you've got Ziri, who's like the princess of Irano. You've got Fantu, who's the prince of Eram. Then you've got that Axel Greylark, who's kind of like your almost like Han Solo, careless, attractive dude. And then you've got the Jedi Knight, Gela, I think her name is. It's something like that. But again, just, I don't know. It's very typical adolescent storytelling to me, but. And I mean,
3 out of 5 stars to me is a pretty spot on review.
Yeah, it's not a bad book, but it's nothing great.
By the way, speaking of reviews, have you ever seen the show Review?
No. Or wait, what is that on?
I think it's on Paramount Plus.
Oh yeah, I don't have Paramount Plus.
Or maybe it was like Comedy Central. The guy who does it, and I forget his name. It's so funny, man. He's like a life reviewer, and people like send in like things for him to review. Like one of them was getting divorced, so he had to divorce his wife. You know what that was like? It's pretty It's pretty funny, man.
Yeah.
They'd be like,
Okay.
So he goes to the episode and it's horrendous, and he goes, divorce, 1 out of 5 stars.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, so I'm trying to think of a quick way to summarize this. I mean, I think that Romeo Juliet is a great summary. So essentially what happens, these two planets are at odds. There's some kind of battle conflict, which the princess is one of the pilots from Irano comes crashing down onto Iram, which the prince of Iram, Fantu, rescues her. And then in this, they look at it.
And just, the bad guys are the ones who, cause that. Right?
Yes, because neither planet is actually causing it, right? It's these, what is it, the path or the mother or something like that, who's secretly planning all this, all these things to happen. And Xiri, who's the princess from Irano, looks at this as an opportunity to bring peace to the planets through marriage. Like, it's not really love that creates it. I think they start falling for each other as the book progresses, but
very cliche.
Very cliche. And then
it's like Spaceballs.
Yeah, it's
It's like literally the plot of Spaceballs, except the in this case the guy. The guy rescues the girl, so it is Spaceballs.
Yeah, the guy rescues the girl.
And
I will say the girl is more.
I don't remember reading this, but there was a passage where the guy has to carry her giant luggage. It's uncanny.
I will say though, the girl was more of a badass than the guy in this. She was definitely like the stronger, mentally and physically almost stronger, better fighter, better leader, and all that. Meanwhile, so like she's directing all these people on what they need to do, and the guy is more like, being there for support type of thing, like, oh, we're gonna be okay type of a thing. So I'll say that is a little bit of a difference from stereotypical things. And I'm trying to remember though, in this process, the main conflict is them finding out that this is being planned like through like hidden means, and they're trying to get to the bottom of that.
No.
Okay.
I don't think they knew that.
But well, Axel, he was part of it, right?
Yeah, but you don't find that out to the very end.
Right. You don't find that out to the end, but they're trying to discover what's going on here.
Group.
Right.
The path or whatever they are. So the big issue is this conflict happens right as like a relief freighter is supposed to come with water.
Yep.
For Arano, because Arano is a desert.
Desert, yeah.
And so that makes the tension even higher because the ship that's supposed to bring the ice is like, you ever seen that meme with the kid where he's like, oh, it turns around? That's literally what the ship did. It's like, oh yeah. So, and the conflict has caused issues of getting relief. So the Republic sends relief in the form of the Jedi.
Yep.
And it just so happens because there's 2 chancellors in this time period.
Yes.
And one of them,
Greylark, which is Axel's mother.
Yes.
And then the other one is Malo.
Who's he's a was he he's a calamari in that or something?
No, it's the other species that's on Mon Cala. It's this, not the calamari looking, but like the squid looking ones that have like the triangle faces, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it the Mon Calamari?
No, that's like Admiral Akbar.
Okay.
This is a different species on that same planet.
Yeah.
If you recall from Clone Wars, remember that underwater battle where you had the Mon Cala and they were that other species they were fighting? It's that species. They were being led by that shark.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the name of the species, but I mean, and in the audiobook, they talk like that.
Yeah.
What you'd see in the show. So with that being said, you have these 2 planets at war. Relief efforts are having a hard time, so they send the Jedi. There's this path that, is kind of doing all this under the scenes. and the Jedi turn out victorious. There's the book.
Well, and again, talking about things happening under their nose, and I mean, Axel and Gela are working together, and she's not even noticing that he's a part of this, or he's going to potentially betray them towards the end. And I don't know if he was necessarily the bad guy in this, but just making selfish decisions, but at the same time, like doing small acts of good deeds. For instance, like there is towards the end, he like pushes Gela into that like fighting pit where it happens to be another Jedi that she has to fight, or Jedi impersonator type of a thing. And, she asks him, why do you do that? Or why did you do that? And he's like, well, I knew you would win, and I still ended up rescuing you from it anyways, instead of just like leaving her after that. So he does like these small acts of good while doing like overall bad. But I don't think his overall objective is to be too malicious. I think he's just trying to look out for himself and make his way through the galaxy, because he has inner conflict throughout the book trying to understand who he is, and they kind of go into that quite a bit. Because I mean, you first see him and he's like gambling and like unsure of himself, and he's like royalty, but he doesn't want to be. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of tropey.
Yeah, it is.
He's a kid that was forced into a family with a lot of responsibility because his mom's the chancellor and he's rebelling against it. Yeah, that's pretty tropey in my opinion. So,
yeah,
the book was kind of tropey to Romeo and Juliet and
young adult
family to Spaceballs.
Yeah,
it's just there's so many of those moments in the book where I just keep thinking back to the Spaceballs scene where Darth Helmet gets him to shake his hand and he takes the ring. And he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe you fell for that." He's like, "Do you know why good will never defeat evil? Because good is dumb."
Yeah.
There's so much of that. It's funny, at the time I just thought that was a funny joke, but now I'm realizing it was like spot on with the Star Wars series in some cases, that they really lean into this, the good guys have got to, learn themselves and, go through failure, which, is a fine lesson, but, you go too many times to that well, and now it just becomes kind of, you get numb.
Well, and you got to know your audience too. Like if you're reading the book Convergence or, the High Republic books, you've probably seen all or read a lot of the other content of Star Wars out there. So you're just, like you're saying, rehashing things you've already experienced. So, change it up a little bit. But knowing that the Path or whatever is part of this makes me feel like I need to go back and read Path of Deceit, because it probably sets the table for that, hidden bad guy that's, taking place during this story. So might provide a little more context to that.
Well, I did buy
go ahead.
So Mother is the original owner of the Gaze Electric.
Yes.
So that they kind of explain that, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
I did appreciate that.
Now, was the mother Axel's mother? Did they?
No.
Okay. Because
she's a different character. Axel's mother.
That's right. Yeah. She's the other chancellor.
Yeah. I think she's a different figure we'll learn more about.
Yeah.
Probably the next book. And again,
like a Martian Rowe character.
Yeah, but not nearly as compelling, but we don't know anything about her really.
Right.
So there's that. I kind of goes back to again that they have gone back in time where they had a perfectly great story to continue on. Already the book had kind of been in a spot where I think it was climbing uphill to get a good response from readers who are now like, I read the series, I really want to learn more about it. You set up a really good bad guy. why are we going back?
Yeah. The other things that I thought were pretty cool or pretty interesting about this book, it's more about the different species that are playing a part in this. And one of them is the species Pantoran. And those are the like blue-skinned creature, not like Thrawn. But I know you haven't seen the last 3 episodes of Bad Batch, right?
Correct.
In the 2 episodes that were released at the same time, one of the characters is Senator Chuchi, who's from the Clone Wars show. She's like a blue creature, and she's one of the senators. That's one of the species that plays a role in this. So I'm like, okay, they're connecting Bad Batch right now with, the High Republic books. And then another species, if you recall from Clone Wars, I think it was one of the first seasons, there was a planet they went to and that was experiencing conflict with, I think it was like a local tribe or whatnot, but they were like very white and paled creatures. They were like humanoids, but very pale white skin. And their species is known as Kage, Kage, native to the planet Quartzite. And that's, thinking back to the book now, I think that's the species of the mother, because what was that helper girl that was kind of doing her deeds that ended up getting killed? Do you remember?
Ofla or something like that.
Afla, was that?
Yeah.
Something like that.
They said her name in the book many, many times.
Yeah, but that's the same species. So I think that's the species of the mother too. But who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, connecting to Clone Wars. So I thought that was pretty cool too. Anything else on this book you want to speak to?
No, I mean, if it's something you got to read to get through the series, I would say go ahead and do it. But just, in my opinion, know that it's not the best content out there.
Yeah. And then I did just pick up too the next installment, but this is, I know they call this the audiobook version. So this is Battle of Jeddah. And when I say audiobook version, it's because everything's written in script. So if you remember, I told you about the book Tempest Runner.
Yes.
So it's the same style as this in terms of it's just lines that people are talking. So this is probably better to listen to through an audiobook than actually read it. But I thought it was cool that it's Battle of Jeddah. So if you recall from Rogue One, that's the planet where the city of Jeddah gets destroyed as like a test from the Death Star. And
mining all the kyber crystals out of it.
Yeah, they were mining. Yep. And we know that there was once a temple there from Rogue One, and you see like the fallen Jedi statues that were part of that temple. So, it's strong in the Force, and, Chirrut Imwe and Maze. Is it Baze? Baze Malbus, his like handy helper, big gun guy, were like monks or whatever of that. Not Jedi themselves or necessarily strong in the Force, but they know of the Force and they worship it and are in tune with it, but don't really have like special powers. So I'm interested to learn more about Jeddah back when it was still part of the Jedi and, more of a temple than a mining facility city or whatnot. So I'll do that maybe after Path of Deceit, but one book at a time. And we'll skip Bad Batch for now. We'll, when everyone's caught up, we'll talk more about those and dive deeper into it. Well, I don't think you're the only one. I don't know if Zach and Greg are caught up on those either, but I will say, Dustin, you will like the first 2 or the next 2 you'll be watching. Those are actually, I feel like, more relevant. And I loved those episodes. And then you might be disappointed with the most recent one. So just warning you. You'll get 2 good ones and then one you probably won't care for all too much. And then I will just round everything out with So if you recall, last time I introduced our next battle for, bracket challenge type of a thing, and we've got video games that are being put head to head. This first play-in round, I think we're just going to try to speed through to knock off some of these, participants to get into the actual true rounds. So we
regular March Madness.
Right, exactly. Like, no one cares about the play-in games as much unless you're part of those teams, those games that happen on a Monday and Tuesday versus the games that are Thursday through Sunday. But we did put some polls out and we did get some quick results. So the first matchup was number 32 Super Bombad Racing versus number 33 Battle Pod Arcade. And the 33 seed upsets the 32 seed. So Battle Pod Arcade will move on. Did get a call out from Britton on this one. I love getting Britton's insight. He's so great at it. From My Star Wars Life. So go follow that Facebook group. It's awesome stuff. And he said, I voted Battle Pod. Now, I'm not sure I've played it. However, I prefer arcade games to games I haven't played. I vaguely recall trying to play an older arcade game similar to this setup. Definitely. I know for sure I never played Bombad Racing. The name Bombad turns me off, and it looks like a ripoff of Twisted Metal, which I loved. Oh, I remember that game, Twisted Metal. That was fantastic. And I think I recall, was it Rule Farm Bay? Was it this
game Road Rash?
Road Rash? Oh yeah, was that with motorcycles?
Yeah, you just beat the crap out of each other.
You had a chain and you just
yeah.
I played that on Sega Saturn.
That game was so good.
Oh, I loved that game. It was great. And then the second matchup was the 25th seed Lethal Alliance up against number 40 Star Wars Trilogy Apprentice of the Force. And Lethal Alliance knocks off Apprentice of the Force. Then the third matchup, which is seed number 29, episode 1 versus number 36, Yoda Stories. I know Zach was all for this Yoda Stories one. He thought it was a dark horse. He loved it. I remember playing it. It was great. But episode 1 did defeat it. So episode 1 will move on. And then matchup number 4, the 28 seed Star Wars Arcade versus number 37 Star Wars Masters of Terrakai. Star Wars Arcade defeats it. So we've got our first 4 in, going into the big dance of 32, I think. So, and then the final play-in round will have number 31 Galaxies versus number 34 Jedi Arena, number 26 Force Commander versus number 39 Flight of the Falcon, number 30 Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith versus number 35 Droids, and then number 27 Vader Immortal versus number 38 Demolition. And just a reminder, similar to the movies, this is your own personal take on which one you like more, whether it be gameplay, story, influence on Star Wars in its entirety, whatever you want, all of the above. You get to make the choice. Which game do you like better than the other? And if there are games that have multiple installments like Force Unleashed, Battlefront, Rogue Squadron, we grouped all of those into a single title. So if you are going to choose Battlefront, you need to choose Battlefront 1 and 2, or all the expansions on that as well. So just a few reminders. And all seedings were done based off of a website, Ranker. So if Ranker had them rated higher, they got a better seed, and vice versa. So yeah, that's what we got for the day, dude. Any final thoughts, or whether it's Star Wars related, or are you caught up on Last of Us yet?
I am. Yes, I actually.
Spoilers, if just in case, spoilers on Last of Us if we talk about it. So you stayed up really late and watched it?
I hate myself for saying what I'm about to say. But after the last episode, I was emotionally shook.
But it's great. That show keeps getting better and better.
It is great. It is horrific.
Go play the game. Just wait till you play the game.
I gotta wait till March. I'm playing Dead Space right now. I gotta get through that too.
Yeah.
So,
but are you talking about like the bloater and him? So the bloater was the big creature.
I know the name of the creature.
And he tore that guy's head off.
Yeah.
That's not
what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm How about the very end where the kid
Oh,
turns
yeah.
and the dude shoots him, and then
It's part of the game.
Yeah. Holy shit.
I was just waiting for that to happen because Colleen
I was really
watched,
hoping like she'd be like, "Oh yeah,
and that it would work.
yeah." Well, and I know the end of that game, which is also fucking horrific. Which I
Yeah.
know they're gonna retcon that, is my guess. And the only reason I know that
They might.
because people suck, and it gets spoiled for me a little bit, but whatever. I mean, it's not going to change the world.
Well, I'm curious what you mean by the end of the game, because I know there's things that have been spoiled, but they don't necessarily happen in this season, more so in season 2. So spoiler, if you want to reveal, spoiler, if you don't want to find out, turn off right now. I'm giving you plenty of time to find that mute button or that escape button, exit. Okay. What were you going to say?
Yeah, don't they does like Ellie gets like sold off or something, and then they experiment on her and kill her?
They don't kill her.
No. Well, anyway, I thought that
but that more or less. Do you want me to tell you, or do you want to wait and find out?
I'll wait.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously, I'm off base a little bit, so I'm excited to kind of see the.
Well, Ellie's in season 2, and she's older, so that should give you an indication that she's still alive.
She's the bad guy.
Ellie?
She's like mad at Joel.
Well, I mean, she gets mad at Joel here and there, but I mean, I won't say anything. I don't want to ruin it for you by any means.
Yeah, the bloater was obviously really cool. The lady getting killed at the end by like the little girl clicker was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, and that lady, the leader, and the guy she's with, they're not in the game. So anything that happened to them was completely new to me, because those were brand new characters made for this show. But everything else, I remember that level too. And where they're going into that neighborhood and the sniper and everything. I remember that level from the game, but in the game, it's during the day. This is happening at night, which made it all more dramatic and interesting. But yeah, because I'm watching it with Colleen, and she obviously has no idea about the game, and I'm just waiting for her with what happens at the end of that episode. And she was not happy. She loved it.
Game, can you kill bloaters, or are they like indestructible?
Yeah. No, you kill them. So you actually encounter the first bloater when you meet Bill. So you remember Bill and Frank?
Yes.
So Frank, when you come across him in the game, is already dead. He killed himself. I think he hung himself. And his relationship with Bill was not what it was in this. Yep. They were like lovers and ever. Yeah, but they were lovers, but they also like hated each other. And they kind of, gave a little comparison to that, because Frank told him like, you drive me crazy and blah 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 blah, but I would have another day with you versus anything else, so they kind of played to that a little bit, but they were very much at each other's throats and adversaries. But when you come across them, Frank is already dead, Bill is alive, and you're actually going through a school before you meet him, and he comes and kind of rescues you because you're in his little town neighborhood thing, and you're trying to flee all like the clickers and whatnot. And then you get into this gymnasium and you like close the door behind you. And then on the opposite door, a bloater comes through, and you team up with Bill to take down the bloater. And Ellie's there too, but she's kind of like hiding behind stuff. You're trying to protect her. So you have to take down the first bloater together with Bill, which was the one thing that was one of the best levels in the game, was going through the school and that bloater in the gymnasium. So not that I didn't like the episode they gave us with Bill and Frank, but I was also kind of hoping for that gameplay, which when we get to this most recent episode, it was like, okay, I can correlate this back to the game perfectly. It happens very similar between the show and the video game. So yeah, that was tough stuff at the end.
Yeah. So So there's obviously a hierarchy with the mold, right? So are bloaters at the top?
It's essentially what's been like a zombie for a longer period of time.
Okay.
And it's not often that they last a long time, but if they do last a long time, they become like larger and more. I don't know if I would call it a hierarchy. They just become, bigger and stronger and more difficult as they get older. But a bloater isn't the biggest one you even come across in the game. So one of the grossest, creepiest looking creatures I've ever seen in the game is from Last of Us. And I'm wondering if we get something like it.
Is there a name for that creature?
There is. It wasn't until part 2, so I don't think we would get it this season.
Okay.
If we do come across it. But it was horrifying and disgusting. I'm fighting it. I have to like look away because it was just terrible.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was, and you come across it in like a underground parking ramp and like subway type thing. So it's like completely dark and everything and just terrifying. So I'm looking forward to you playing the game because I know you're going to like the game.
I'm going to love the game. I just got to wait, because I don't have a PS5 and I want to.
When does it come out again? May?
No, March.
Oh, March. Oh, so you're not too far away. You're almost there.
March 23rd. I think it's March 23rd. So it's just a little over a month.
So does that mean the show will be done? First season will be done by the time? Okay.
Yep.
I'll be interested to get your perspective going from the show to the game, considering like me being game to the show. So I think that will create some interesting conversation. Well, cool, man. Yeah, so I'll just quickly give a shout out to our social medias. Have to do the business aspect of things. So you can find us on Twitter at DetBlockAA23pod, on Instagram at detention_block_AA_23. And then our Facebook group and YouTube channel names, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. Bring us your likes, downloads, subscriptions, follows, 5-star ratings, all of it. It goes a long way for us. It helps us move up in the algorithms, bringing our podcast to more people. And, as always, bring us your comments, insight, opinions. Come chat with us when we're live broadcasting or premiering our episodes. We love the conversation and we love talking with you guys. So, yeah, more to come with Bad Batch, Mandalorian season 3 just around the corner, and so much more. Can't wait. So, with that, any final thoughts, Dustin?
Just thinking that meme from the Jets player. White.
Which one?
The Jets player. I forget. I don't know the name of the player, but
You cut out when you said that though. What was the? Oh. Yeah. So we'll leave you with that. A good one to noodle on. But anyways, I'm Michael Mudge, joined by Dustin DeFranco. We are Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your evening, rest of your week. And we'll be talking to you guys next week. And with that, may the Force be with you.
Also with the Battlehawks.
That's around the corner, isn't it?
Go XFL. Start Saturday, baby.
There you go. And USFL, right? They both start at the same time?
No, USFL starts in April.
Oh, okay.
Hey, they made it to a second season, which is kind of a big deal.
That is very big deal. More than many leagues can say. So that's awesome. All right.